Thank you, Dave. Good evening from Edmonton, where Joey Moss is raising the 13th man flag to commemorate 25 years of his association with the Edmonton Eskimos, 26 years with the Oilers. By my count, that's about 10 championships. Grey Cup and Stanley Cup. TSN, the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL, and proud home of the Grey Cup. Well, we launched the second third of the regular season here at Commonwealth Stadium. An eagerly anticipated matchup. Cool night, threat of rain. John Hufnagel's Stampeders 3-3 in the first third. And that's the 5th consecutive year Calgary has sported that record. On the other sideline, Richie Hall, also 3-3, gets his first taste of the Battle of Alberta on the sidelines.
They'll play each other 3 times over the next 4 games.
And here we go with Titus Ryan fielding the Prefontaine kickoff and bringing it ahead to the 40-yard line to set things up for the Calgary Stampeder offense. And Henry Burris leads the offense out as Burris has Doug Flutie in his sights, as well as the Eskimos tonight.
Yeah, he sure does, and he has Joffrey Reynolds in the backfield. Joffrey Reynolds coming off back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. He gets Ryan Thelwell back in the receiving court. Thelwell had a bit of a hamstring injury, so he will help his veteran experience. And one change, Rob Lazio is out, Tim O'Neill in at center.
First down from the 40, and they hand it off to Joffrey Reynolds straight ahead. Reynolds has 4 against an Edmonton Eskimo defense ranked number 4 against the run.
And up front, Dario Romero has become their leader. Xavier Jackson is the newcomer, that inside position, inside defensive tackle. No Mo Lloyd in the middle. Rod Davis, former NFL, 40 games in the National Football League for him. He goes in the middle, and there's the secondary, some changes there with Keys on the corner. 3 different starters for the Edmonton Eskimos on defense. A crosser to Thelwell, and a first down into Edmonton territory. Ryan Thelwell's back. And almost 80% of the time in the last 2 years, his catches have produced either first downs or a touchdown. A first down there. Well, it's just the veteran experience I think will really help Henry Burris. That's one thing that not a lot of people are talking about with the Calgary Stampeders. Burris is starting to get that offense going, and he's had to do it with some injuries in the receiving corps. Of course, no Kenyon Rambo for the entire season.
So Henry Burris now 224 yards away from passing. Doug Flutie on the all-time Stampeder list. The Edmonton Eskimos do not have an interception on the year, and Bobby Keys had a chance to win a big team pot as they look for number 1 in the pick department.
He's one of the changes. Bobby Keys moves to corner. Jonte Buell go at halfback. There's another one. Rod Davis at middle linebacker. Mentioned that. Maurice Lloyd is out with a hamstring injury, so we'll watch him. See how he makes the adaptation into the Canadian Football League.
Veteran with NFL experience who will make the calls defensively. 2nd and 10. Out of the shotgun. Reynolds stays in the block. And that pass intended for Jermaine Jackson is incomplete as it skipped ahead of the receiver.
Not a lot of argument from Jermaine Jackson as he runs this curl, and looks like he does pin it against the grass. A good call by the officials. You know, it's an interesting combination. You mentioned the Eskimos not having an interception, Chris, all season long. Henry Burris is protecting the ball well. Just 1 interception in his last 4 games. So it's going to be tough for the S to get that first pick against Henry Burris.
There's Tristan Jackson awaiting, and Burke Dales tried to angle it and didn't get much on it. And that one will skip out. Turns out to be a well-placed kick at the 14-yard line where Edmonton will start. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939. A 35-yard punt by Burke Dales. And the Eskimos start at their 14. Ricky Ray had 1,181 yards passing in 3 starts against Calgary last year, and the first pass is batted down. Starting lineups brought to you by Nissan, fan and proud sponsor of the CFL.
Well, Ricky Ray has thrown for close to 700 yards the last 2 games. He'll have Archie Whitlock starting at tailback. We'll see some Calvin McCarty as well. He gets Maurice Mann back in the receiving corps out there at wideout. Creates an interesting matchup between him and Brandon Browner. And there's your offensive line. Patrick Kabongo had his problems last week. He hopes those are behind him.
Malik Jackson with the knockdown on the first pass, and now Ray looks for Maurice Mann, and he was well covered on the play. Brandon Browner, a matchup you talked about in the pregame show.
Well, John Huffnagel told us yesterday that Brandon Browner and Dwight Anderson are really the strength of his defense right now. They play aggressively. They play that smother style of man-to-man. I just like this matchup with Maurice Mann at 6'2", 190. Brandon Browner, 6'3", 210. We'll see that matchup a lot tonight. Textbook coverage from Brandon Browner there on that play. But Ricky Ray will go back to Maurice Mann. You can count on it.
So a 2 and out, and Prefontaine stands a yard deep in his end zone, and Titus Ryan awaits. One hopper to Prefontaine. Line drive, and Ryan crosses the midfield stripe and is dropped at the Edmonton 43-yard line. That's a 43-yard punt, and 12 on the return. A great field position for Burris and Calgary's second possession as we check in with Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Well, Henry Burris is very close, as mentioned before, to passing Doug Flutie to be the Stampeders' all-time leading passer in yards. And Henry Burris said it'll be very special when it happens, but it'll be even more special at the end of the season, when he has more time to relax and reflect on his accomplishment. But right now, the most important thing to Burris is that he becomes the Stampeders' all-time leading passer with a win.
Play action fake to Reynolds, looking deep and just off the outstretched fingertips of Ryan Thelwell, who Burris is happy is back in that offense, but wincing. He's had hamstring problems, and we'll be watching Thelwell.
Henry Burris chasing a few numbers set by Doug Flutie for the Calgary Stampeders. There's the yardage totals. Doug Flutie at 20,551. So Burris needs 239 tonight to pass Doug Flutie. And Burris has been averaging, the offense has been averaging close to 300 a game.
So he has 15 yards tonight. You can say, yeah, but Flutie did it in 4 years. Henry Burris has had 77 fewer attempts coming into this game. And there's a completion and more yards into that Flutie total for Nick Lewis with the catch. And Lewis trying to catch Vince Danielson for 6th on the pass receiving list.
That's great recognition from Nick Lewis and Henry Burris to see the matchup created where they had Elliot Richardson, the safety, not used to covering man-to-man, to come down and play head up on Nick Lewis, and that's exactly where Burris went.
19-yard gain and a first down. And another Lewis catch, and he's drilled at the 10. Back-to-back first down catches by number 82.
You know, Henry Burris and the Calgary Stampeders staying in the same hotel as we were, and this morning just at breakfast he walked by us and he said, can I get some help going up the stairs? Apparently I'm really struggling after reading a couple of the local papers, but off to a good start here. And I think over the last few games he is really getting things together. In the last 4, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception.
That interception was on his last pass of the Winnipeg game. Here's a little dump off. Teo Johnson, touchdown. Touchdown number 2 of the year for number 2, Teo Johnson, untouched.
Watch your feet.
Little play action for Henry Burris right here, who's going to take it out of the shotgun, and Teo Johnson's coming out of the backfield from right to left. There's the play action to Joffrey Reynolds. That freezes the linebackers, and Teo Johnson with that second touchdown.
Extra point from DeAngelis. And the Stampeders draw first blood in the Battle of Alberta.
Down on the goal line, the linebacker cannot freeze even for a split second. You're going to see 2 linebackers here, TJ Hill and Mark Rostelli. Now, one of them has got to cover Teo Johnson on the backfield. You see them hesitate right there. There they are again. They hesitate. They look at each other like, whoop, who's got this guy out here? Well, he's gone for a touchdown. Too late. You can't hesitate down on the goal line.
4-play, 44-yard touchdown drive. And Henry Burris with his 9th touchdown pass ties Darian Durant for the league lead in that department. Tristan Jackson. And he's stopped up at the 32-yard line. And Johnson, while we were in commercial, looked at the camera and said, "We own Alberta." So the battle is on for another year, provincial bragging rights.
Well, a little early to claim those bragging rights for 2009 when it's quarter one of the entire series, which includes the Labor Day back-to-back coming up. But a good start for the Calgary Stampeders 6 minutes in there.
Well, he may have heard the Edmonton coach say, you want to establish early domination when a season series is like this. Here's Archie Whitlock trying to get to the edge. Remember how Winnipeg ran against the Calgary defense last week? Nothing doing there with Trey Blackman.
Yeah, maybe Trey Blackman starting to take that a little personally. No, Mike Klobinjo on the defensive line for Calgary. Miguel Robide will play inside. There's Blackman, who probably takes a lot of that run-stopping criticism personally, and Dwayne Carpenter, a big play guy in the linebacking core, and Milton Collins making a name for himself at free safety. We've talked about the corners.
The defense, number 1 against the pass, last against the run. 2nd and 10. Ricky Ray looks for his first completion and doesn't have it. Looking for a flag on Wes Lysak as the intended target was Kamau Peterson.
You know, I mentioned Milton Collins. There's Lysak right here. He's going to play the second safety. They play 2 safeties sometimes, 2 deep guys, and Milton Collins will be to the left of your screen, and Wes Lysak to the right. He just plans it, or reads the eyes of Ricky Ray, plans it perfectly, and comes up for that knockdown. They're good friends, and Collins has told me that Wes Lysak is instrumental in helping teach Collins the game. This is the 2nd year of his life he's played defense.
Back-to-back 2 and outs for the Edmonton offense. On the run, Titus Ryan mishandles it. And they get back on the football. Calgary with the lead after that 35-yard punt. Well, what could have been a disastrous play for Calgary turns out to be one for the Edmonton Eskimos. Watch number 40.
Right in the middle of your screen here, this leg is going to get caught underneath and caught in the turf. You see it buckle. That's Rod Davis, the replacement middle linebacker for Maurice Lloyd. Now, Tim St. Pierre filled in for Lloyd last week in Hamilton, and it looks like he will get some more playing time here tonight. Rod Davis still down.
So the Hamilton native is back on the hot seat. Davis with his first CFL start, but with NFL experience, and they felt he would slide into the spot vacated by Mo Lloyd comfortably. But Richie Hall did mention that he was also going to have to handle his special teams duties, and here it is on the second punt cover team, and he may have lost his middle linebacker for the night.
Bit of a mass unit on the defensive side of the ball right now for the Edmonton Eskimos. You consider all their changes. Lost Lenny Williams in the secondary. Now they lost Maurice Lloyd. Rod Davis looks like he's putting some weight on that leg. That's good news. But they're pretty thin at linebacker too, Chris. Tim St. Pierre is pretty much it. They can go to Kitwana Jones after this, but they haven't dressed a lot of linebackers, so the Edmonton Eskimos kind of hanging on in that spot right now.
So it is good news to see Davis off under his own power. Henry Burris has had a hot hand early. Starting at the 44, and they swing it out. Nick Lewis with a hurdle went right over Bobby Keys.
Players start to get a reputation of being pretty hard-hitting players. Nick Lewis is one of those guys, so defensive backs watching film want to go down low and try and hit him in the legs and chop him down. Well, Nick Lewis knows that. Nice little hurdle over Bobby Keys there.
Now you see me, now you don't. Gain of 9 at 2nd and 1. And Reynolds Doesn't have much, but should have the first down at midfield.
Henry Burris, that last series, just moving the football down with great efficiency down the field against this Edmonton defense that has been patched together due to injuries. Teo Johnson caps off what was a perfect drive.
You mentioned how Burris has only thrown the one interception now into this 5th game. The only interception was the last pass of the last game, and it ended a streak of 128 passes without a pick. So he has protected the ball well. And can Edmonton change that stat tonight? A team unbelievably through the first third of the season without an interception.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. You think you'd fluke into 1 or 2 here or there.
1st and 10. Flag down. And Burris will throw it away. Looks like one of the receivers might have been a step ahead of the snap. Bud Steen's in charge tonight.
Offside. Calgary number 2. Penalty is declined. It's 2nd down.
Teo Johnson. Was that receiver you noticed? Richie Hall, the head coach for the Edmonton Eskimos, was a defensive back in his playing days. And pretty amazing, at 225 passes, they have not had an interception.
2nd and 10, trouble, and Kai Ellis with the sack of Henry Burris back at the 46. Ellis with his 3rd sack of the season.
Important to get Kai Ellis going because he, along with Daryl Romero in that front 4 of the Edmonton Eskimos, are the veteran presence that this Edmonton team is going to have to lean on in a big way with all the changes they've gone through.
That might be the strength of that Edmonton defense right now, their front 4. And Ellis with the 1st sack of the night for the green and gold. Burke Dales kicking to Tristan Jackson. And Jackson slowed up and brought down. Randy Chevrier, the former Eskimo, with the punt cover tackle. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. Eskimos have been a slow-starting team this year. They do not have a touchdown on an opening drive this season. And last week, they scored their first touchdown in the opening quarter in the first 6 games this year. Looking for their initial first down of the game. Will pump, and Fred Stamp's not going anywhere. Shannon James takes him down at the line of scrimmage.
Well, and we expect a lot from these quarterbacks when these 2 teams meet. Ricky Ray last year, 448, 2 games, well over 300. And you can see the 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Henry Burris also threw 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions over that time, but 400 yards basically on average per game last year when Ricky Ray faced the Calgary defense.
They give Stamps 2, and it's 2nd and 8. Here comes the blitz. Ray just got it away off the one hand of Stamps, who had Ronnie Amati in his back pocket, and it's 3 consecutive 2-and-outs for Ricky Ray.
This is where, Chris, these guys in receiving core are going to have to work their one-on-one routes. This is Maurice Mann, who Ricky Ray wanted to go to initially on Brandon Brown, or right in his hip pocket. You saw Ronnie Amati also real close to Fred Stamps, and not any windows for Ricky Ray to get that football in.
So a 1-for-5 start for the Eskimos signal caller. Noel Prefontaine kicking to Titus Ryan. Another line drive, and that one's going to bounce down inside the 25-yard line. Good kick and no return for Prefontaine. 48-yard punt. So Henry Burris has the upper hand so far. ...150 yards away. Rework our math. 170 to tie, 171 to go ahead as Joffrey Reynolds steamrolls ahead, close to a first down at the 34.
Yeah, I asked Richie Hall yesterday in our meeting. I said the question to him was, what's your thoughts facing Henry Burris at quarterback? And his answer was Joffrey Reynolds. So I was a little confused and wondered if he heard the question, but he said Henry Burris is at his best when he's got Joffrey Reynolds. Joffrey Reynolds coming off a couple 100-yard games. He's really rolling it out now.
First down run. Little pump one way, looks the other, and looks downfield, and incomplete. Trying to go to the speedster, Titus Ryan, and good coverage there by Jason Goss on the Eskimo corner.
This has got to be good news for Richie Hall, who's probably wondering how his secondary will hold up. He's got Jason Goss, who started the season inside, has moved out to corner. It's going to happen to the right of your screen here. A little pump fake to the field and then back to the short side with that one-on-one matchup. But Jason Goss in perfect position and look back to the ball.
Kitwana Jones checks in on 2nd and 10 for the Eskimos. Here comes the rush. Kitwana Jones and Dario Romero get to the quarterback. It's the 2nd sack of the game. And Edmonton thought without Rob Lazio, maybe they could get some heat up the middle on Henry Burris.
Tim O'Neill's in his 2nd start, and he's up against Dario Romero, who Dan Kepley can't talk enough about, and is the first guy to celebrate with Romero on the sideline. He tries a swim move on him and then spins back to the inside. Nice move there on Tim O'Neill for that sack.
4th sack for number 94. And that's a field position changing play. Dale's to boot. Tristan Jackson has to field it back at his 40. There is a penalty marker on the play, and Jackson has some room. Into Calgary territory and out at the Stampeder 44-yard line. 27 on the return, but let's see what the penalty marker is all about. And Tristan Jackson now slow to get up. The Eskimo
on the return, holding. Edmonton number 88. It's a 10-yard penalty. First down.
So it gets wiped out by an Andrew Nowacki hold.
That flag was early. It had to be right on the line of scrimmage, and Nowacki just not letting a player release to go down in coverage. But of more concern for the Eskimos is the health of Tristan Jackson. He is the spark that gets this team going more times than not.
That's a 41-yard penalty as the Eskimos back now at their 30-yard line with just 2 yards of offense so far. Take by Ray, and now he takes off, and maybe that'll loosen things up and take it out heavily. Miguel Robide with the late hit on the sideline, so a first down run by Ray, and they'll tack on 15 more.
Well, one penalty looked like it was really going to hurt the Eskimos in field position, and this one should get it back.
Unnecessary roughness. Calgary, number 96. 15-yard penalty. First down.
Well, the Stamps are second last in penalties, averaging over 100 yards per game.
Now, Ricky Ray had that left foot still in the field of play. That was a close one, but I think the official saying, you know what, you could have pulled up there and didn't have to throw him into the bench like that.
So it's up to midfield. And an Edmonton first down. quick hitter and a completion, short gain for Jamaica Rector in front of Shannon James.
You mentioned the penalties for the Calgary Stampeders. This is a concern. Well, you know, John Hufnagel's not calling it a concern just yet. It's something that he's observing very closely because this team has been in double figures in penalties and ranks 7th in the league so far after 6 games. He said that he wants his team to play aggressively. It's a balancing act so that they don't go over the line and get penalties that hurt them on the scoreboard.
Heavy sick.
Only the Toronto Argonauts have taken more penalties so far this season. 2nd and 4. Ray looking deep. Has it in. Fred Stamps. Touchdown. 49 yards to the suddenly favorite Edmonton target.
Fred Stamps starts in the backfield on this play just to the right of your screen. And when he gets out of that backfield, now he is hitting the line of scrimmage on the fly. Ricky Ray buys a split second more time by stepping up in the pocket and finds his #1 target over the last 2 games.
Prefontaine the extra point. Quick drive, 3 plays at 80 yards for Fred Stamps.
The Edmonton Eskimos offensively have wanted to incorporate more pre-snap motion. There's Fred Stamps, #2, coming out of the backfield. He started on the left side of Ricky Ray, and then he just runs that nice out route and down the seam. One-on-one on Ronnie Amati, gets in behind him and then cuts back on Milton Collins, the safety. Back-to-back 100-yard games for Fred Stamps. His best game of the season last week versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats when he had 7 catches for 136.
So Stamps against the Stamps. And this game is tied. You mentioned the back-to-back 100-yard games. He's halfway there again. And I found it surprising. The Eskimos have not had a receiver with 3 consecutive 100-yard games in the last 8 years.
Terry Vaughn, the last one.
Titus Ryan on the return. And he'll be brought down at the 35-yard line. Mark Bristelli is there. And we're in the final minute of this opening quarter.
Well, after 2 good drives for the Calgary Stampeders, now the Edmonton defensive front 4 with Dario Romero and Greg Peach have made it a little bit tougher sledding for Henry Burns. He started out on fire, is now at 50%. So he has to get this offense going again and see how he can find the answer to a defensive line that's played their last 2 series real well.
You mentioned Dan Kepley. He said Dario Romero is the one guy I'd take and put him on that dynasty team of the late 70s and early 80s. Couple of pumps from Burris, and Nick Lewis is wide open. They forgot about number 82, and he's still going down to the Eskimo 33.
You know, there are coaches that feel that when you roll the quarterback out, that you cut the field off and you take away some potential targets. This is bootleg where, yes, the field is cut in half, but watch the threat of run and how that affects Jason Goss. You see him sneaking up. He wasn't sure if he should come up and tackle Burris as he was pump faking there, or he should stay back, and Nick Lewis opened up behind him.
Big half for Nick Lewis. Big quarter. And now Thelwell drops it. On the final play of the opening 15 minutes here at Commonwealth. It's the Saw, tied at 7. First quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
The Calgary Stampeders kind of owned the first half of the first quarter, and then Edmonton got things going late. 49-yard pass to Fred Stamps for a touchdown by Ricky Ray, really accounting for most of their passing yards.
Nick Lewis with more yardage than the Edmonton Eskimo offense. Jeff Belon mentioned to me yesterday, the veteran right tackle of the Stamps, the team that has the ball most will probably win this game. Do you agree?
I do agree, because it can become a shootout quickly with these two quarterbacks, in Henry Burris and Ricky Ray. When they play against each other, they put up some big numbers. So that team that can keep their offense on the field longest has that chance to get that advantage down the stretch.
Here's Burris throwing over the middle and has a completion. And Ryan Thelwell at the 20 has another first down.
Well, the good news for the Edmonton Eskimos, they got their linebacker Rod Davis back in the game. We showed you that he was injured early. There he is. Now he's in the middle linebacker spot. He steps up in the line and then is kind of flushed to the offensive left, which opens up the middle in a big way for Ryan Thelwell there. Henry Burris finding Jermaine Copeland and now spreading things around for that Calgary offense. Puts himself in second and short and really opens up the playbook.
Gain of 8. Grabbing some headset problem suits. You might have to take over here. Here's John Cornish to the goal line and touchdown. And an answer from the Stamps in a hurry as John Cornish hits pay dirt for the second time this season.
The Calgary Stampeders, one of the best teams in the league in capitalizing when they get in the red zone. Well, again, play action. Remember the last time they were down in the goal line area, it was a Teo Johnson touchdown from Henry Burris. Some very similar action where they go play action to Joffrey Reynolds. They try and freeze the linebackers and then get another player out on the perimeter.
John Cornish calls that a house call. He's made a house call and the Stamps have the lead.
Show you the importance here of Joffrey Reynolds in the play action. There's Reynolds. There are 4 players for the Edmonton Eskimos outside that have the ability to stop John Cornish here. Now watch when we run the play. I'm going to show you where all 4 are. 1, 2, 3, 4. All biting in on the fake to Joffrey Reynolds, leaving John Cornish wide open on the outside.
A little option pitch, and Cornish reestablishes the Stampeder lead. Tristan Jackson, another good return this time. No flags. For Cornish, it capped a 5-play, 73-yard Stampeder touchdown march.
I like the package for the offense for the Calgary Stampeders down near the goal line area. They're keeping everything looking very similar and just making small adjustments. Teo Johnson had a very similar touchdown in the first quarter going the opposite direction. Almost looked identical to John Cornish and his touchdown on the last series.
So let's see if the Eskimos can reply. They start at their own 39. Will fake, and that hitch to Maurice Mann. And Mann with some extra yards. Finally brought down by Miguel Robidet. Mann led the CFL in receiving till missing last week's game with a hip flexor.
I go across the league. I'll talk to defensive backs about the toughest receivers to cover, talk to offensive linemen about the toughest defensive linemen to block, and I'm getting it unanimous across the board that Maurice Mann is one of the top wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the CFL right now, and that's considering that Kenyon Rambo for Calgary is out of the lineup.
14 for Mann and a first down up at the 53. Bad snap, and Ricky Ray's just going to sit down on the job and make sure they hold on to the football. Again, both starting centers are not in the game. Rob Lazio out for Calgary, and John Comiskey for Edmonton.
And that's just a dribbler back to Ricky Ray, who is wise just to maintain possession.
Aaron Fiacconi making his 4th start of the year as Comiskey's had injury problems early this season. Loss of 5, 2nd and 15. 3-man rush. And Ray has Kamau Peterson. Looks like he'll be about a yard short of the first down at the 48-yard line.
Kamau Peterson sees zone very well as any inside receiver in the league. In other words, he knows where to find the hole, where to find the little window in front of the safety, Wes Lysak, but in beside a linebacker who had dropped in Trey Blackman.
Only 4 catches in the first 2 weeks. Peterson is heating up, and Richie Hall keeps the offense out on 3rd and close to 2. A long 3rd down gamble and out of the shotgun. They'll hand it off. McCarty! And Calvin McCarty still going. First contact was short of the first down stick, but he got it with plenty to spare.
Calgary Stampeders defensively have had some issues stopping the run, so a calculated gamble by Richie Hall to put Calvin McCarty in on 2nd and a couple, like you mentioned, Chris, but McCarty pounds it in there.
Trey Blackman with the contact, but McCarty just bounced off.
Didn't wrap him up.
First down, now they'll pitch it to McCarty off the right side. They wrap him this time. Matt Grudegood, Malik Jackson on the scene.
Well, and Shannon James also helped out from the linebacking core for the Stamps on that one, and he did it by cutting off the angle and getting outside of Calvin McCarty. He's just to the left of your screen right here, and when he takes off, he will be the secondary contain man and then get that angle outside to turn McCarty in because he knows his friends are inside.
Loss of 1. 2nd and 11, so they go to that 2 safety defense you talked about with both Lysak and Collins in. Ray under pressure, rolling, open, steps in. Another first down as he found a little crease there with Devonzo Tate in the trail position.
I want to show you a player who struggled last week versus the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and Patrick Kabongo with 3 holding calls and costly ones, and how well he played this. Helps out a couple of times here, then chips and gives Ricky Ray some more time by working on the backside and cutting off Tom Johnson.
Have a sip.
Mentioned the 3 holding calls. 1 wiped out a touchdown last week in a 7-point loss against Hamilton. We'll look in and into heavy traffic again. Not much is there, and it's another loss.
Well, I asked Richie Hall how he handled that because it was the first time in Patrick Kabongo's football career. That includes his time at Nebraska in college. He's never in a game had 3 penalties and a couple, as you mentioned, Chris, very costly. And Richie said, you know, I walked by him in practice. It's not a big meeting. Everybody has that kind of game. And I mentioned to him, look, just get back to fundamentals, get your hands right, and you'll be fine. He makes a big block on this drive already.
Loss of 4 on that completion to Jamaica Rector. Marker down. Ray looks deep. And it's a catch. And a big one by Rector in front of Milton Collins. But again, a penalty marker on the play. And will the 23-yard pickup stand?
It's in the area of the field.
Offside. Calgary, number 77. Penalties declined. It's first down.
That's the defensive tackle, Tom Johnson.
Chris, in the area of the field where Ricky Ray loves the corner route, and he had it with Maurice Mann running the corner, but the Calgary Stampeders have done their film work, and they saw Mann and jumped him, so Ricky Ray goes right down the middle to Jamaica Rector.
It's an impressive-looking receiving corps for the Eskimos. And now first and goal from the 6. Calvin McCarty, touchdown. That was easy. 6-yard scamper. And the Eskimos a point after away from tying the score.
Calvin McCarty in the backfield. And if he can get his legs up and be pumping them like he can without any contact at the line of scrimmage, you're not going to be able to stop that train.
Sixth touchdown of the year for the outstanding Canadian in the opening month of the season. Prefontaine has tied it, and we've got a shootout in Commonwealth.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
Calvin McCarty caps the latest scoring march. Ricky Ray and Henry Burris look like they're intent on putting on a show tonight.
Well-blocked running play down on the goal line to get Calvin McCarty into the end zone. Set up by the Jamaica Rector catch over the middle from Ricky Ray.
Big second down conversion on 2nd and 14, 23 to Rector. And then a 6-yard run by Calvin McCarty. Ricky Ray now 7 of his last 7 after starting 1 for 5. Titus Ryan back at his 9. And Ryan stopped up just short of the 35-yard line. Justin Cooper, first man downfield.
Chris, I want to show you a key block because we always think about the middle linebacker as the guy that has to make the play on the running back down low. Well, watch this block here by Patrick Kabongo as he comes out and gets in front of and locks up right here Trey Blackman. That's the middle linebacker right there that's trying to scrape to the hole. Kabongo cuts him off, and Calvin McCarty untouched.
So a little redemption for the big man. Back to work go the Stamps, and Joffrey Reynolds is upended. Dario Romero.
Edmonton Eskimos improving their run defense by the game. The first couple of games of the season, they were giving up well over 100 yards per game. Talked to Dan Kepley about it. He says it's all about gaps, responsibilities. They feel pretty good about the last 4 games against the run.
2nd and 9, Elliot Richardson, the safety up on the line. He'll take Reynolds as the pass over the middle is incomplete. Intended for Jermaine Copeland, and Jonte Buell was there.
It looked like Jonte Buell was close enough and aggressive enough here that he made Jermaine Copeland kind of shorten off his route a little bit and then come down a little shallow. That changed the angle and the launch point for Henry Burrs. He couldn't get it in there to Copeland because of the tight coverage by Jonte Buell. Copeland wanted to go another 2-3 yards deeper. I could tell by the way he ran the route. He cut it off a little short, and it's incomplete because of it.
It's the first 2 and out of the night for the Stampeders offense. Tristan Jackson backpedals. Good kick by Dales, but maybe a return. Jackson's not going anywhere. Brandon Browder, the gunner, gets there first. 56-yard punt. Tied at Commonwealth. Let's rejoin Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Esk's offensive coordinator Rick Warman started the season upstairs in the booth. Now he spends the entire game downstairs on the sidelines. Warman said it's good to be close to the action, and it helps with his communication with his players. On the downside, well, he doesn't see as much, which brings in Kevin Strassman. The Eskimos brought him in to be the new eyes in the sky. Strassman also comes from the Montreal Alouettes organization, and he brings some expertise in the motion offense.
And that revamped Edmonton offense goes back to work again, looking for its first lead of the night. Just under 6 minutes to go. There's Kevin Strasser.
Yeah, Kevin Strasser spent the last 2 years at Portland State. Of course, you talk about that motion that Jermaine just mentioned. That comes from his time in Montreal. He was there from 2002 to 2006. Of course, he also coached here in Edmonton, started his CFL journey back in 2000, 2001. So he will continue to help out. He's an offensive assistant. and work with the passing game in that pre-snap motion.
2nd and 6. Big rush. Ray hit as he throws, and it's incomplete, and maybe fortunate not intercepted as Ricky Ray was under duress. It's a couple of times tonight he has been leveled while delivering the football.
Yeah, and it looks like Ricky Ray over the last couple of games trying to avoid sacks by getting the ball out of there, but this is how a couple of times he's been intercepted. When he gets pressure in his face, the quarterback cannot follow through on the throw. There's a lot taken off the pass because of it. And Ray has thrown 7 interceptions this season, is on pace for his 2nd highest total in that category at 21 at this rate.
So now the defenses dig in a bit. Each team trading 2 and outs. Titus Ryan, Mark Rostelli couldn't come up with him, and now Ryan drilled at the 30-yard line. Matthew Bertrand, a leader on the Edmonton special teams, gets downfield in a 52-yard boot by Prefontaine. So exactly 5 minutes left here in a good first half. First of 4 meetings between these two teams in the Battle of Alberta for 2009. Henry Burris had an early hot hand. Back faking to Reynolds, and Nick Lewis still has a hot hand. Down the sidelines and a tightrope across midfield. They'll mark him out. Well, they're going to mark him out at the Calgary 53.
Right now, the Calgary Stampeders are working linebackers Mark Rostelli and TJ Hill by using that play-action motion. They're running Joffrey Reynolds into the line of scrimmage, and it doesn't matter if it's Teo Johnson, it could be John Cornish, or it could be Nick Lewis coming out of the backfield and taking advantage of the linebackers jumping that play-action fake.
Nick Lewis en route to his best game of the year. 20 on that pickup, and now Burris wide open, and a catch is made. Jermaine Copeland brought it down inside the 10.
All kinds of changes in the secondary, and you wonder, there's usually a free safety back in that area. Henry Burris is going to come back with the play-action fake one more time, and this time he's got a crosser to influence Jonte Buell and pull him tight, and then go in behind Buell to Jermaine Copeland. And that's a pretty catch.
47 for Jermaine Copeland. And it's 1st and 10 just outside the 10. And Burris to the goal line, back to Copeland, touchdown.
You see it? Represent.
For Kenyon Rambo. And Henry Burris and Jermaine Copeland conspire to regain the lead.
Timing route for Henry Burris. He's going to take 1, 2, 3 steps. Ball's out of there. That's almost impossible to cover.
Shades of the Eskimo tribute for Jason Tucker a year ago, and Jermaine Copeland gets into the end zone and pays tribute to his injured teammate. It might be last possession wins tonight.
Well, this is a nice timing route by Copeland. There he is right there, and watch what he does here. He just comes right down the goal line, and the ball is in the air as he makes his break. Half field, here he comes down, turns that corner, ball's in the air. Jonte Buell really has no chance. When timing is like that between quarterback and receiver, you can almost be handed the playbook. You can be handed the play, and you still can't stop it.
5th touchdown catch of the year. 65th touchdown reception of Jermaine Copeland's career. And Henry Burris over 200 yards now in this first half.
33 yards away from becoming the Stamps' all-time leader and passing Doug Flutie.
Look out, number 20.
And the Calgary Stampeders' success inside the red zone, once again, taking advantage of their opportunities.
So just over 3 minutes left. in a wide open opening half. And DeAngelis punches it down to Tristan Jackson again. And he dropped the ball, and the Eskimos get on it. Anxious moment there as Jackson puts it on the turf. But the Eskimos maintain possession at their 27, and we'll get one play before the 3-minute warning.
Pretty impressed with Calgary Stampeders' success in the red zone, and now it's Ricky Ray's turn to see if he can get his team down there. When you look at red zone success in the top 4 teams in the league, look at 72%. And I'm talking about touchdowns, not field goal attempts. I don't think that's a win if you get inside the 20 and come away with a field goal. So offensively, Calgary Stampeders with 18 touchdowns on 25 attempts so far this year.
Huge issue for the Eskimos last week. They were 1 for 4 in Hamilton, 2 for 2 tonight. And here's Archie Whitlock. The nifty move, and Whitlock up to the 50-yard line as the offenses continue to move the football. Less than 3 minutes to go, first half.
Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport.
"23 yards, Ricky Ray to Archie Whitlock. One brave Stamp fan with the Doug Flutie jersey, who will see Stamp's history very soon, it would appear. But right now, the Eskimos trying to answer a third Calgary touchdown. 1st and 10, Ricky Ray, and a crosser to Maurice Mann. And a good tackle there by Ronnie Amati. It's close to a first down, but if Amati doesn't make the play, Maurice Mann's still running.
Yeah, he tried to get the corner there, but pretty good speed by Ronnie Amati to run him down. He's going to come from left to right across your screen on the shallow crosser. Important drive for Ricky Ray to try and match the points. The Calgary Stampeders so far after 6 weeks, 3-0 when they lead at halftime, 0-3 when they trail. So the Edmonton Eskimos would like to see if they can tie it up.
2nd and less than a yard. Ricky Ray passing to Kamau Peterson. Double teamed, and they try and pull it out, and looked like they did. Does Miguel Robide have the football? Well, there was a case of 2 defenders trying to rip it out, and Bud Steen says it's still Edmonton football.
But the rest of the players down in that pile don't know that Bud Steen has made the signal. It looked like the ball did come out just prior to Kamau Peterson being down by contact. You can see it on the ground there. He reaches in with his left hand and pulls it back in himself, I believe.
Former Stampeder has 12. And there's Shannon James ripping it out.
You know, I'm not so sure he might have been down by contact anywhere. Looked like it came out late.
First down. Ray steps up, and he'll take off. And Ricky Ray hit as he gets close to another first down. Shannon James and Matt Grudigood there for the Stampeders on defense.
Well, we got a couple of gunslingers going at it again, and you know, we're walking up to the parking lot and up to the stadium today thinking, you know, with these 2 quarterbacks,
yes,
we could get a shootout in Commonwealth tonight. And all Henry Burrs can do right now for the remaining minute and a half is watch to see if Ricky Ray can match.
Every once in a while we figure things out, don't we? Well, they're number 2 and 3 in the league in passing yardage behind Anthony Calvillo. Look out. Pass for Stamps, an errant one. Incomplete.
You see how Ricky Ray on that play, though, rolls away from pressure. That time he had Wes Lysak coming off the edge. Interesting that a quarterback quickly recognizes which guy is unblocked, and when he's unblocked, he has to move away from that pressure. The pressure is going to come from this side here, and Ray will go away from it going in the opposite direction. He knows number 31 is not blocked, so he's going to keep rolling away, Now he can't complete this pass because of coverage. But that's the quarterback recognizing where the pressure's coming from.
Lysak with that big interception late in the game last week to preserve the victory against Winnipeg. 2nd and 10. Here comes pressure. Ray gets away. He'll take off again and has a first down. And one more. Ricky Ray, touchdown.
Wow.
That's as good a touchdown run as I think we've ever seen from Ricky Ray.
Ricky Ray showed a little shake and bake in the open field. He steps up in the pocket. I'm not sure how he escaped there, but watch the move as he cuts to the outside, and then a little second effort, and fights his way in the end zone.
Brandon Browner lost his footing on the Commonwealth turf, and Ricky Ray rumbles 27 yards. Longest run of the year. Get Lana Jones late on this convert, and the Eskimos convert team
violation. Edmonton number 7. It's a 5-yard penalty. We'll kick the convert.
Yep, they were missing a man, and they'll have to be marched back 5 yards. And that's as animated as you'll see him. That's a couple of weeks in a row we've seen some pretty good emotion from a guy that doesn't usually show his emotions very much.
Hey, who made that block? Who made that block?
Well, he knows he's going to have some fun with his teammates watching that one back on tape because he showed some speed out there in the open field.
Third touchdown of the year for Ray, and they just go back and forth here at Commonwealth.
I think every defensive back, linebacker, defensive lineman in the Canadian Football League when scouting Ricky Ray will think if he does run, and he does it occasionally, he will get out there, get a few yards, and then hook slide. And I'm pretty sure the Calgary Stampeders likely thought that. You see Brandon Browner slipped on the play, but look at that move. Back and forth, shake and bake, and Ricky Ray into pay dirt.
And the only thing wrong with that play is he's given Henry Burris 61 seconds to work with. We might not be done in a very entertaining first half. And that gives the boys in the panel a lot to talk about. We'll be checking in momentarily with Dave Jock, Matt, and Schultze on one of the best first halves we've seen this year.
Boy, I would agree with that. I mean, this is two quarterbacks finding their games again. The first third of the season in the books, and they're lightening it up this first half.
A first third dominated by the defenses in a lot of ways, but not tonight. Titus Ryan up across the 35 before he's wrestled down. Jason Nugent, the tackle. Well, he is 32 yards away from this man who needs no introduction.
Dave Sapungus, a catch there. You know, he threw a few to Alan Pitts. This one worried me when I saw it pregame because it was Saskatchewan, but
you got away with that one. But Doug Flutie left his mark in 4 brilliant years in Calgary. There's that fake to Reynolds, guns it downfield, and on a rope to Brett Ralph, and that was vintage Henry Burris.
it really was, Chris, because he throws this ball on the run. It's almost a second thought for Henry Burris, who's lined up right here. He'll scramble out of the shotgun here. Watch him run towards the line like he's going to take off, and then he thinks, you know what? I've got a matchup down there. I'm going to do the throw behind, but the accuracy on that throw on the run is incredible.
And with that 36-yard pickup, he has done it. Now the all-time pass leader on the Calgary Stampeders, and he did it in fewer attempts than the brilliant Doug Flutie. Pass for Lewis, incomplete. And a penalty marker on the play.
There are the official numbers. Henry Burris now the all-time leader in Calgary Stampeder history.
Early on, the backup, he played behind Dave Dickinson and Jeff Garcia in the early days.
Calgary number 82. It's a 5-yard penalty. Repeat, first down.
Eskimos want the yardage here with 27 seconds left in the first half. They push the Stamps back 5. And the ball at the 43-yard line. in DeAngelis range, but Henry Burris isn't done yet the first half. 1st and 15. And that pass sails high, missing the intended target, Ryan Thelwell.
Boy, Henry Burris looks comfortable in that pocket right now and in control. Both these quarterbacks do tonight. And Burris in this situation, you know, he really doesn't even have to think first down. He could, nice intermediate pass, a high percentage pass to kick a field goal. He probably needs another 10, 15 yards. It's in range now for DeAngelis, but another 10, 15 yards makes it a little more comfortable for him.
Safety up at the line. Elliot Richardson on 2nd and 15. Now he pulls back and they drop it off. There's Reynolds. And Joffrey Reynolds with a first down. Dropped at the 24-yard line, but there's 16 seconds left for the Stamps to take a shot at the end zone.
Yeah, it does give them a couple of opportunities, and John Huffnagel did just that. Calgary will call a timeout here, and they'll allow John Huffnagel and George Cortez to talk it over. But the idea on the play call was to get Joffrey Reynolds out there so they could kick a comfortable length field goal, but Reynolds picks up some yards on his own to get to first down territory. Now that gives Calgary a chance to take one, maybe two cracks at a major before the half.
That's quite a night already for Henry Burris. 2 300-yard games this year, but this is as good as we've seen him this season. And he's usually sharp against Edmonton. 8-5 in his career against the Eskimos as the quarterback of the Stampeders. So 1st and 10. Another flag. And wide open is Brett Ralph. Jason Goss will push him out. 10 seconds left, and somebody was offside. Ryan Thelwell says it's an Eskimo. I wondered if it wasn't one of the Stampeder receivers. And it is.
Oh, it is, yeah. There's still time with 10 seconds.
Offside. Calgary, number 80. 5-yard penalty. Repeat, first down.
It was Jermaine Copeland. We've seen that 2 or 3 times in this first half. Calgary receiver ahead of the play.
Now there is time to take one crack at the end zone. However, with that penalty, Burris would have to really push it.
See what he does. Richardson showing safety blitz. Here he comes. Pass complete, but underneath to Copeland. And the heat from the safety may have really limited Henry Burris's options.
But tremendous clock management for John Huffnagel's offense to move the ball. They had some challenges with a couple of offside penalties that took away their opportunity for a major, but they managed the clock perfectly to allow, with 6 seconds left, Sandro DeAngelis to come on and take what is really a chip shot for him.
What a season Sandro's had. The only miss, a 51-yarder. And this from 30. For the first half lead, high snap. And they're going to get the lead, but he misses. An unusual miss for DeAngelis. Missing from 30, and it's a 1-point Calgary lead at the half. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the Canadian Football League and proud home of the Grey Cup. Well, we're ready for more of what we saw in the first half, but first, let's join Jermaine Franklin with Eskimo coach Richie Hall.
Coach Hall, did you know your quarterback had moves like that, first of all?
Well, he's a good athlete, you know. He's just not as gifted as some of the other quarterbacks in the league, but he can make the chains move, and he made a big play by scrambling for a touchdown.
Unfortunately, despite the offensive production, you're still down by 1. What needs to happen for your defense to slow down Henry Burris and the Stampeders offense?
Biggest thing, we just got to be sound fundamentally. You know, keep your head up on our tackles and make sure we tighten up our coverage, because Henry is going to try to challenge you vertically, and we just got to be sound with regarding overall football.
Thanks, Coach Hall.
All right, thank you.
Well, Glenn, it was an anything you can do, I can do better kind of first half.
Well, and we'll see what kind of adjustments these two teams make and see if defensively they can try and get some more stops. But as you heard from John Huffnagel at halftime, it was, looks like this one's going to be a barn burner in the Commonwealth Corral.
Still exhaling from the first half, and here we go. The Eskimos will get their hands on the football to start the third quarter. Off the foot of DeAngelis. And Tristan Jackson has that one bounced by him. Well, that's going to be a single point.
Well, I guess Sandro DeAngelis was a little upset after I jinxed him with the chip shot to end the first half, and then he missed it.
Excuse me, it's not a single point as it went out before it was played, and it will just be scrimmage at the 25-yard line.
But he nailed a good kick down in that corner, so kept it away from Tristan Jackson.
You know, they've been kicking away from Jackson to Archie Whitlock, but his returns were so impressive that that's a better option. Kick it where neither guy can get their hands on it. Ricky Ray's got his hands on it now, and Matthew Bertrand, the big fullback. First touch of the football, and he's eased out of bounds by Dwight Anderson.
Very entertaining first half of football between these two quarterbacks. Henry Burris with 269. Ricky Ray got going about halfway through the first quarter. A 49-yarder to Fred Stamps got his offense in gear. He now has 165 as we start this second half. But look how close their career passing numbers are when you look at both of them over 29,000.
Do you think they'll both hit 30,000 tonight? 2nd and 8. A lot of steamboats and a first down. A strike to Kamal Peterson over the middle. And there's that hard-hitting safety, Milton Collins.
Yeah, this is why he's getting that reputation. You heard Matt Dunnigan in the pregame show talk about Milton Collins and how he is becoming a real hitter and establishing himself as that big free safety in the middle. And I talked to Chris Jones about Milton Collins, who explained to me how he moved to the defensive side of the ball.
Here we go, D. Here we go, D.
And off at a gaping hole, Archie Whitlock with a big run across midfield and down to the Calgary 53.
I'll get back to Milton Collins because this play deserves a good hard look. As you mentioned, Archie Whitlock, and look at the hole he gets to the left side as the offensive line slide over, and it looked like Trey Blackman slipped on the play.
15 for Whitlock, who had 70 yards from scrimmage last week in Hamilton. Gets the ball again and has another crease and another first down. Collins will bring him down at the Calgary 40.
You know, Chris Jones told me yesterday that one of his major concerns is their run defense. And Edmonton Eskimos didn't really exploit it in the first half. But he's trying to find the answers now quickly as Archie Whitlock has found a couple of big holes in the offensive line. One to the left on the first play, and then that one to the right side.
First down, and they feed Whitlock the ball again. Same result. Doing his Fred Reed impersonation, but fumbles. And a turnover, and up with the ball is Dwight Anderson. And look out. Anderson, Ricky Ray can't bring him down. Now the Eskimos double back, and Anderson's on the gas. So the Eskimos were chewing up the yards, but then they cough up the football.
Well, cough it up, Chris, but then also give up the big fumble recovery return, and it looks like Ricky Ray through the entire process is limping his way off the field. All kinds of moving parts here because it looked like it was going to be another big run from Archie Whitlock. Matt Grotegood pulls it out of there. But watch the return on the fumble from Dwight Anderson. And you're right, it was just the fact that his gas tank emptied up.
Nice play fake, and there's the favorite receiver tonight. Nick Lewis has another catch. 87 yards in the first half.
Dwight Anderson has become a playmaker in a lot of ways. He has, there's the forced fumble by Grudegood. Now, Anderson, the playmaker, 3 interceptions, has a touchdown off an interception, had one called back against Winnipeg last week, and now this return to not only get the ball back, but get field position.
Somebody give that man some oxygen. Nick Lewis over 100 for the first time this year, and there's another catch for Jermaine Copeland as the super slots of the Stamps getting leaned on more tonight.
Yeah, but watch how this play is just a little bit off. They're going to try and cross with one coming here and then one coming here. But what happens is they get too close together. They end up just coming by about a half a yard too close to each other, and then that hesitation costs them the execution in the play. Sometimes it's a couple of inches, sometimes it's just a second or two.
2nd and 7. Burris guns that. Copeland another catch. Another first down. Mark Rostelli brings Copeland down at the 15. And it's 15 more for Jermaine Copeland, who's made some big plays tonight.
Yeah, and Old Mo just doesn't know what sideline to stand on right now, because the Edmonton Eskimos had that momentum right out of the gate with some big running plays from Marquis Whitlock. The turnover, and all of a sudden the Stamps are knocking on the door. That's the kind of game it's been, back and forth.
Only Ryan Thelwell in a 100-yard game coming in for Calgary. Joffrey Reynolds,
babe.
Rostelli met him with a rude greeting.
Well, Mark Rostelli down on the goal line has been biting on Joffrey Reynolds and playing him every time. And in fact, they've given up some plays defensively because of play action. But this time, Henry Burris does give the ball to Joffrey Reynolds, and that's a big-time tackle by Rostelli right in the hole.
Sets up 2nd and 8. Kit wanted, Jones checks in. Eskimos stack up the line. And here's a little alley-oop for Johnson. Busted up by Jason Goss. A size mismatch. Goss at 5'10" and Big Teo Johnson at 6'5", but good defensive play.
It was a good play, Chris, because you said it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 across the line, and then guess who comes into the play? Go ahead. Just to the left is going to be Jason Goss, number 4. He steps into that formation. He comes up, and he's the guy covering Teo Johnson out of the backfield. That's corner on a tight end, and that matchup goes to the defense.
Stampeders lead the league with points off turnovers, 92 coming in. And DeAngelo's trying to make it 95 points off turnovers, puts it through, and DeAngelo's shaken up.
A little bit of that Battle of Alberta intensity coming out. Pretty simple field goal here, and look at the extracurricular.
Kai Ellis went skyward, and when he came down, he kind of fell on Jeff Pilon, who fell on Calvin Armstrong.
Fist flying, and yeah,
took down DeAngelis, who looked like he might have been shaken up. No flag. Jeff Pilon was saying yesterday, even on field goals, that Eskimo front will push you back 3 or 4 yards. He said other teams, some of them lay off on field goals, but not Edmonton and not in the Battle of Alberta. Haven't been able to get anything going for Tristan Jackson so far tonight. A short return. And a chance to remind you that Wendy's Friday Night Football continues tomorrow night on TSN as the BC Lions travel to Toronto to take on the Argonauts. Live coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. And somewhere out there, there's a prospective groom that is going to be looking at that screen very carefully, and he's going to be worried the rest of the night.
Bachelorette in the tub.
Thought Ricky Ray might be in the tub after that last fumble return by Dwight Anderson. Ray was limping, and Jason Moss was warming up on the sidelines, but Ray back in now, looking at a 4-point deficit. There's the hitch for East Man, and he's cut down by Brandon Browner.
Yeah, but we're going to have to watch Ricky Ray a little bit here, Chris, because you're right, he was limping off, and we've seen his mobility and how it's helped him in that first half. In fact, he had that scramble run for a touchdown and he was limping even after that throw. That'll keep him in the pocket. And you remember how Jock Climby was talking about how Henry Burris was moving around, and Ricky Ray likes to move around as well out of the pocket and have different launch points. That may limit it for Ray.
Second and a couple. Ricky Whitlock, who fumbled on the last one, rips it up into the backfield and down to the Calgary 41-yard line. Well, they were chewing up the run yards on the last drive until he put the football down.
In the shotgun on 2nd and 2, but you can still run running plays out of the shotgun.
So back to the ground where they were doing some damage. 31 yards for Whitlock on that romp. Here's pressure. Ray stands in. And a pass out of the reach of Maurice Mann.
And his mobility is limited a little bit here, because he couldn't step into that throw quite as well as he was doing it in the first half. So a strong running game will really help Edmonton in this second half.
They had 49 yards on the previous drive before Whitlock fumbled, and then the big 31-yarder. Not likely a running situation here as Ricky Ray looks at 2nd and 10. From the Calgary 42-yard line. And a crosser, and Whitlock with the catch. Remember the first game of the year when he dropped a couple in the end zone, but Ricky Whitlock's put all that behind him. And it looks like they'll be short of the first down, and Richie Hall will have to make a decision.
He wants to get a close look to see exactly how far he is. Andrew Nowacki has stepped up to take a closer look at it from the sideline.
Looks like it's a full yard and maybe a bit more, but they're not going to get a measurement.
Sometimes those coaches want a measurement just to buy themselves some time.
Remember in the first half it was 3rd and 2, and McCarty made it easily. Same kind of play here, and this time Whitlock doesn't make it. So back-to-back turnovers for the Eskimos. First on a fumble, and now a turnover on downs as Dwayne Carpenter helped fill the hole. Well, it's back. Wendy's Kick for $1 million is back. Your chance to be 1 of 4 to go head-to-head to qualify for the live halftime show. Enter at tsn.ca/Wendy's, plus upsize your Wendy's combo and get a game card to get bonus entries.
I like that new addition.
Yeah.
That's 1,000 yards for every yard kicked in the air.
Henry Burris back to work. Teo Johnson grabbed the ball and then gets dumped. Let's take a look at why Calgary's got their hands back on the ball.
Well, a couple of turnovers, one on a fumble by Whitlock and one on a nice stand here by Big Tom Johnson in the middle of the defensive line, and he gets that penetration past center Aaron Fiacconi, and Whitlock has no chance. That line reestablished the line of scrimmage about 2 yards into the Edmonton backfield.
They got away with that play call in the first half, but you wonder about the handoff out of shotgun on 3rd and 1. 1st and 10. And Burris comes back this side, but he's got Thelwell. Ryan Thelwell with the catch when Bobby Keys gambled for the interception.
Well, remember we showed you early on how when Henry Burris rolls out, sometimes it can cut the field in half, but it has an advantage is that it puts you in a bind defensively as to not knowing when to come up to tackle Burris or when to stay back in coverage. Well, this time the coverage is good, and that cuts the field in half. So now he has to go all the way to the wide side of the field. Bobby Keys gambled, rolled the dice, and just missed it.
And Thelwell did a pretty good job of squeezing that. Now Reynolds straight ahead down to the Edmonton 38. Remember, there's a big pool. At least 8 of the Eskimos been throwing some money into the pot every week. I don't think anybody anticipated it'd be this long, and they'd still be, the pot total will be mounting. But here we are, 6.5 games in, and no interception.
You want to start our own side pool? I'll get Jason Goss will be my guy. You pick one.
You always get first draft. Second and short, and that catch is made by Copeland, close to a first down. 7th catch of the game for Jermaine Copeland.
Now Burris is spreading it around a little bit, going with bootleg, running some running plays. A tough catch made look easy by Copeland there.
So you took the interception leader from last year.
Yeah, I got Goss. Who do you got?
I'll take the veteran Kelly Malvo, because he says he's going to use the money to have a barbecue for his teammates if he wins. Burris in trouble, and Rostelli forces him to throw it out of bounds. And did he make it to the line of scrimmage? I believe he did. Good pressure there by the linebacker, Mark Rostelli,
who is starting to play better football in the second half in the linebacking core. He's going to come from the right of your screen. Secondary containment, meaning that once Burris breaks outside, then he has to go from the core. And that's why it's going to be tough to get that interception, Chris, because Burris is making those good decisions. He's wrapped up by Rostelli there, throws it out of bounds, saved a loss and an interception.
2nd and 10 from the 38. Here comes the pressure now. Underneath the completion, Jermaine Jackson, and he's brought down by Kelly Malvo, short of the first down. So Sandro DeAngelis and the field goal unit will be called upon.
Well, a couple of turnovers, and Chris, you mentioned early on that the team with not necessarily the ball last, but the edge in time of possession might be the team that prevails tonight. And Calgary, with those turnovers, they may have the edge in time of possession.
So DeAngelis surveys a 33-yarder, has missed from 30 tonight. And Sandro puts that one through. So the lead now is 7 for the Stamps. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going, and the Eskimos with the only 2 sacks of the night.
We haven't heard from Odell Willis yet, who leads the Canadian Football League after 6 weeks with 6.
So 3 more points off turnovers for the Stampeders, and another one of those kicks, but this one will go out of bounds, and that will give the Eskimos the football at the 45. Unless the Eskimos want to receive another kickoff.
See what they decide. Looks like Sandro DeAngelis is trying to bite off a little too much there. It's kind of like when you're on the first tee box and you're trying to put it down the right side. A little too much is a...
Eskimos will take it at the 45 when we come back.
Calgary, Edmonton.
Live coverage of the Rogers Cup continues tomorrow exclusively on TSN2 at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. The top 11 seeds all advancing.
These cheerleaders in tennis, that would work. Cheerleaders in tennis.
Get you watching. These 2 teams vying for top seed in the West. Tied with 3-3 marks. Erky Whitlock straight ahead for 4.
You know, Richie Hall's philosophy with his running backs are to really platoon them. Play them one for a quarter and then play the other one for a quarter in Calvin McCarty. And you wonder if that will evolve to sort of situational play. In other words, maybe short yardage, you'll see more of McCarty, who will pound it in there a little more, and in the middle of the field, more Whitlock. It hasn't happened yet.
Whitlock having his best night yardage-wise at 83, but fumbled on the last play, and that pass on second down behind the intended target, Jamaica Rector. And a 2-and-out for the Edmonton Eskimos, who have had more success in the second half on the ground than through the air.
And it has been with Archie Whitlock, who obviously had the third quarter in this one.
So under 2 minutes remaining in this third quarter. This the 100th visit by the Calgary Stampeders to Edmonton. Looking for their 33rd win. It's been a tough place to win, but Stamps have won 4 of their last 7 visits to Commonwealth. Titus Ryan on the run, and there's Mark Rostelli and Tim St. Pierre downfield in a hurry.
Hey, the Stamps have launched a brand new interactive website called Stamps Connect. You can visit the website as you're watching the game tonight, share photos, videos, you get some great prizes off that site. You can join players like Nick Lewis, John Cornish, Henry Burris on Twitter. So check it out, stampsconnect.com. And I can only imagine what Nick Lewis was twittering so prior to the game.
So he tweets, you tweet. Everybody's tweeting.
I'm trying to figure the tweet thing out. I don't do it I do it occasionally.
Stamps trying to add to their lead. There's the long out to Brett Ralph, who turns it north and has a first down. Kelly Malvo brings him to the turf at the 40.
Yeah, the whole tweeter thing, first of all, I really wish we could change the name of it. Do we have to call it tweeting, or?
It's not really a football-like term,
It's not
is it?
really. So, yeah, go on the website, check out Nick Lewis. I bet you he's pretty entertaining when he tweets or twitters or whatever it's called.
And at twitter.com, you can check out Glenn Suter, too. What a nifty shift there by Joffrey Reynolds, kicking it outside. And finally cut down on the play by the corner, Bobby Keys. But up near the 50-yard line, let's call it the 49, and 8 for Reynolds.
Okay, so this year early on, I've been trying to join the Twitter family. So follow along. I sometimes will try and do one at halftime, throw in some thoughts. I often will get a call or an email from a player, sometimes in the NFL, sometimes on another team, and I'll throw that on there. So I'm trying to figure it out anyway.
Stefan Logan was one of your better tweets this week. Second and short, and Cornish dropped the ball. Ran before he caught it, and it will bring up a third and 1.5 yards to 2 for the Stamps when the fourth quarter begins. Third quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Well, 729 net yards between the two teams, but Ricky Ray's bogged down a little bit in that third quarter, just over 30 yards passing in the quarter for him.
Schultz, he did mention at the half, the beauty of the first half, no turnovers. Those 2 turnovers in the third quarter loom really costly for the Eskimos right now.
I think they did, because they go back to that time of possession. You could see Calgary with a slight edge, and like the players were saying to you before the game, Chris, is that time of possession will probably be a difference maker here in this game tonight. So it's the offense that can stay on the field the longest and not turn the ball over. Edmonton's got a couple now.
And the Stampeders not going to gamble with a turnover on downs. Third and 1.5 yards or so, and John Huffnagel sends out Burke Dales. Unless he's got something on near midfield, we'll see.
It's a good place to do it.
But it will be Dales to kick it away. And he blasts one. Jason Goss takes it away from Tristan Jackson. And gets nailed at the 20. 54-yard punt by Burke Dales, who's had a solid year in that department. There is a penalty marker on the play, and it's a holding call against Edmonton.
During the kick, Edmonton, number 92, holding, 10-yard penalty, first down, Edmonton.
That's the newcomer, Xavier Jackson, replacing Eric Taylor at defensive tackle tonight.
Richie Hall's group's been pretty good in the penalty department over the last couple of games. Just 6 for 55 against Montreal, and a big win Montreal suffered their first loss here at Commonwealth, and then last week, just 7 for 60. So you can keep those penalties into single digits. Both teams doing that so far tonight. That's a good sign. Especially for Calgary, who has struggled with the penalty department over the last 3-4 weeks.
Backed up here, however, because of a penalty. The Eskimos start at their 3 and come out. Peterson pulls him down and gets a pivotal first down. Trey Blackman, the tackle.
That's probably the most important one, Chris, because you're right. It gets your quarterback out of his own end zone. It can avoid that safety if the quarterback gets sacked when you're down there. So that first down getting out of there, that's why a lot of teams will sometimes on their own goal line, they'll just try and sling one deep to see if they can't just get it all back in one throw.
Eskimos lost last week in Hamilton, 28-21, and that's the score here early in the fourth quarter as Ricky Ray tries to design a comeback. And Maurice Mann, another catch, and a twist to get close to the first down stick.
I love how Ricky Ray will not look to Maurice Mann until he's ready to throw the football. He looks the opposite direction the entire time so that the Calgary Stampeders in coverage. Look at this. He's looking right, turns around, and bam, the football is out there in a hurry. Maurice Mann will catch and run.
He did have a quiet third quarter, Ricky Ray, but yesterday talked about how much more comfortable and efficient this offense is since they narrowed down the package. Archie Whitlock, and good job to maintain balance to scramble for a few extra yards across the 30 to the 31. Ricky Ray was saying he felt like everybody was trying to do too much too early, and players were thinking and not playing and reacting early on offense.
Yeah, it's got to be a game of instincts where you just do your thing. And if you start to think about where you're going to be, what you have to do, what your assignment, once you formulate all that and go through your checklist, the play is long gone.
Big play here to try and sustain a drive. 2nd and 4. Whitlock releases. He gets the pass and has a first down. Archie Whitlock to the 40. Taken down by Brandon Browner.
Right, and you can see, Chris, with Ricky Ray, just the comfort level that he has because he's allowed now to go to a couple of reads. Take a look here as he takes this shotgun snap, okay? Now he's looking over here, and then dumps it opposite direction to Whitlock. That's just complete awareness of where everyone else is on the field, and he knows where his check down player is in Archie Whitlock.
9 for Whitlock, another first down for the Eskimos at the 40, and now they go one back, Bertrand out and Nowacki in. And again, it's Whitlock, gets a block, and Archie Whitlock close to a first down at the 50-yard line. They'll likely mark him a yard short.
Patrick Kabongo comes out there, and he's the guy who gets the block, and I believe it was on Trey Blackman, who is still down. Just follow big number 56 come out of here. He's the guy coming out on the screen, and look at Trey Blackman coming, and it's the low bridge. Puts his left arm out across the face mask and shoulder pad area of Trey Blackman, who goes down, and I think he's still down.
So Blackman gets attention, and we will step out early fourth quarter. TSN's coverage of the 2009 PGA Championship continues tomorrow from the Hazeltine National Golf Club in Minnesota. Live coverage 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Gentleman by the name of Woods has the lead, 5 under 67. Defending champion Padraig Harrington, 1 back. And Mike Weir, Stephen Ames, +2 after round 1. And on 2nd and a yard, a plunge ahead by one of the top runners on the night, Ricky Ray, and Trey Blackman getting assistance on the sidelines. Did he turn his ankle at the end of that play?
Well, he's the guy who gets hit by Kabongo right there, and it looked like they were looking at his ankle. You could see sort of the arm bar that brought him down.
Running into a 325-pound low bridge. So the Eskimos have moved the football 48 yards on this drive. Down by a touchdown. And onto the backfield, Maurice Mann. Inside the Calgary 40.
Smart offensively for the Edmonton Eskimos to attack the area that has just suffered the injury from the Calgary Stampeders. Trey Blackman's out of the middle, so Matt Grotegood goes in there and is not eliminating crossing routes. Maurice Mann, a shallow crosser, goes all the way from right to left and has lots of space to run.
5th catch of the night for Mann. Richie Hall said, I knew he was better this week because I could hear him all over the practice field. After missing last week. Fake to Whitlock, and now a dump off to Whitlock. And Archie Whitlock, big yardage, down to the 20. And the Eskimo offense is back in high gear.
Couple of layers here for Ricky Ray to work with. Matthew Bertrand's going to be the first one out, and then Whitlock is the next one out. So if Ricky Ray wants, he can dump it off to the fullback, who is actually covered by Shannon James, so he waits patiently until Whitlock, the second layer, comes in behind that, and he's the open receiver. Either way, one of the two of them is going to be open.
What a night for Archie Whitlock, 155 yards from scrimmage. 19 on the last play, 1st and 10 from the 20. Dwayne Carpenter pressure, but Ray got away. Maurice Mann stopped in his tracks, and that's a good play by the corner, Dwight Anderson. Short gain.
Yeah, put him in a 2nd and long situation. Chris, you're right. Dwight Anderson makes a good open field tackle because Maurice Mann is right here. And look where he's looking. He's looking at blitz coming. So what does he do? Quick release to give a target to Ricky Ray. And just quick turnout there. But a good open field tackle by Dwight Anderson puts him in 2nd and long.
So the ball now on the Stamp 17, 2nd and 7. Rush, Ray, and he was hit as he got rid of the football, and that disrupted the play. As they stacked up the line and finally put a halt to an impressive Eskimo drive.
Yeah, including Wes Lysak, the safety, but you're right, you could see the Calgary Stampeders aren't trying to disguise anything on 2nd and long, backed up against into their own red zone. So they bring pressure. That ball batted at the line of scrimmage, and Noel Prefontaine comes on.
They moved it 90 yards on 11 plays. And now Prefontaine from 25 yards out. And Prefontaine puts it through. It's a 4-point Stamps lead.
The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right since 1939.
Trey Blackman on the cart, taken to the Stampeder locker room. Jermaine Franklin telling us that he is done for the night. And Titus Ryan on the return for the Stamps. Good return up close to the 40-yard line. Tim St. Pierre on the tackle. And Henry Burris back to work after that long Eskimo drive for a field goal.
362 passing. And again, has been able to so far avoid the interceptions. Mentioned coming in, last 4 games, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception coming in. You can now make it 9-1.
Mark Rostelli limped off, and so Tim St. Pierre stays in on defense for Edmonton. Play action fake and out in the flat. Been a busy night for that man, Nick Lewis. That's catch number 7 for Lewis. And just the second 100-yard game of the year for the Stamps in their receiving corps.
This Battle of Alberta starting to take casualties as Nick Lewis right here, the inside receiver on the 3-receiver side. Just a quick turnout there. Quick out route to the flat. Picks up good yardage on first down.
The Edmonton Eskimos are -2 in the turnover department tonight. They have not won the turnover battle all year. Second and short, straight ahead for a first down. They've lost the turnover battle in 5 games and tied against the Alouettes in their last home outing, the win over Montreal. But sooner or later, if they're going to win this game, Glenn, don't you think they've got to have a takeaway?
Yeah, they're going to have to try and find one, because the Stamps have been good throughout the season at scoring off their takeaways, and Richie Hall's group just hasn't had many.
They have 1 takeaway this year. 1 fumble recovery. They have 2 sacks. And Romero couldn't come down with the third. That pass intended for Thelwell incomplete, but Burris does well to avoid the sack.
Yeah, coming in tonight, points off turnovers, the Calgary Stampeders led the way. The 24 turnovers there, and 98 points, far and beyond ahead of most teams in the league with regards to scoring and taking advantage of those turnovers. When you look at the bottom, though, 7 points off just 7 for Edmonton. You think Richie Hall's group may need one here tonight to turn the tide.
Second and 10, Richardson, the safety, up on the line. It gets loud, and Burris wants a timeout.
Timeout.
Didn't like the look of that Eskimo defensive set.
You know, a lot of times a quarterback will come up to the line of scrimmage like that, and it won't be the coverage that he notices, but he may not have the protection that he needs, because he looks like he's trying to call in receivers to help him in protection and tell him where to line up. He can't do it in time, so he calls a timeout to avoid the penalty.
And 33,065 made enough noise to ensure that Burris couldn't get that communication across.
They love the Battle of Alberta, don't they?
This is just the first of 4 meetings this year. Last year it was 3, and the Eskimos won 2 of 3. Stamps won the 3rd meeting here at Commonwealth with 17 fourth-quarter points. Calgary way offside of the play, but it will likely be declined. An incomplete pass for Thelwell.
Well, I'm going to give the receiving corps a little bit of an alibi because the crowd was pretty loud, but it's an alibi only because receivers should know better. They have to look at the ball and make sure they time up their waggle to the line.
Calgary number 89. Penalties decline. It's 3rd down.
They called Jermaine Jackson, but Nick Lewis was about a yard ahead of Jackson and about 4 or 5 yards offside. So, you know, the receivers have got to look at the ball when they're waggling towards the line like this and not get up there if they get too close. But you look 1, 2, 3 steps across the line before we're snapped.
Burke Dales launches one. And Tristan Jackson from his 16. A crease across the 40. DeAngelo slows him down, but still going. Tristan Jackson, Dwayne Carpenter will finally bring him down. How many times has he done that when the Eskimos need it the most?
Need one block for a big return. Look at this one by Bobby Keys right here on Dwayne Carpenter. This is the block that's going to spring Tristan Jackson to the outside. Carpenter goes down. Now keep that name in mind, though, folks, because he was the first guy at the point of attack.
And it was Burke Dales, not Sandro DeAngelis, that may have slowed him up enough to ensure that Tristan Jackson doesn't score.
And then Carpenter, all the way back after being the first guy, makes the tackle.
71 yards, Tristan Jackson. Archie Whitlock. And he's just pulled down by the shoot top, Fernand Kushama.
Well, a big return by Tristan Jackson, and he is the guy who often sparks this Edmonton team. But that hustle from Dwayne Carpenter could save the Calgary Stampeders. If they can hold Edmonton to a field goal here, it's tremendous hustle by Dwayne Carpenter that should get the credit for it. Let's see what happens on this 2nd down. But 2 big-time principles in this scenario between Tristan Jackson and Carpenter.
Almost a weekly big play for Jackson, who had a 75-yard punt return touchdown against Saskatchewan. 2nd and 6. 4 receivers wide side. Underneath, Fred Stamps trying to get to the first down. And he is swarmed close to that first down. Keon Raymond, an extra defensive back, is in, and it'll depend on the spot.
Calgary substituted defenders quickly, as if to say, even if they're short, they feel like Richie Hall will go for it. They're going to take a look and measure this one.
Don't think there's much doubt they're in 3-down range, but they're just a chain link or two short. They've been stopped on one 3rd-down gamble, but this one should be automatic.
Well, the only concern for Richie Hall when it's that close is the exchange from center to quarterback. And as you mentioned, Chris, backup centers playing. Aaron Fiaconi for Edmonton. O'Neill for Calgary. That's really the only concern when you're this close. When the defense gives you a yard, you should be able to get an inch. Although say that to the BC Lions and some other teams who have struggled in short yardage.
The Buffet boys dig in. And Ray with the surge, no question about it. Off the left side, behind left guard Kyle Koch. Good push by that hole. Eskimo front. And Ricky Ray has 5 carries for 52 on the night. He had 51 yards on the ground coming in.
And the Eskimos getting a chance to capitalize on the big return by Tristan Jackson. And you mentioned it right on the call, Chris, about how important he's been to sparking the Edmonton offense and its entire team.
Big rushing totals again. It was 232 yards on the ground last week against Winnipeg. They go back to the ground. Oh, play action fake, and here's Maurice Mann. Touchdown! And with 3:35 left, the Eskimos have their first lead of the night.
Very similar play to what Calgary does when they're down in the red zone. There's Maurice Mann there. He's going to layer through here. It'll be play action in there from Ricky Ray to Whitlock. That freezes everybody, sucks them all down inside. Out comes Maurice Mann. He's open. High knees it into the end zone.
And Prefontaine to add the extra point. It's a field goal lead now for Edmonton.
All about timing for Maurice Mann, because if he starts this motion too early, then he'll tip off what he's trying to do. But you can see how he kind of sidesteps, waits till the snap, then shoots across. Now Shannon James is in chase from the backside, can't get there. And Maurice Mann finds the end zone. And this is where Kevin Strasser, the new addition to the offensive coaching staff for the Edmonton Eskimos, comes in handy, because it's that pre-snap motion that he is so good at and used in his days in Montreal.
Maurice Mann with his second touchdown of the year. And you mentioned Kevin Strasser. Ricky Ray, we talked about this yesterday. He said, we were not a good motion team, and already, he said, we've seen the effects and had the benefits of Kevin Strasser.
He'll work closely with Rick Warman down on the sideline, as the offensive assistant was actually offered the job before taking the job with Portland State. A great addition for the Edmonton offensive coaching staff.
Can Titus Ryan provide a big return for Calgary? And Mark Rostelli got his hands on him quickly. A late flag, and what's that all about? As tempers heat up here, Justin Cooper, the University of Manitoba product, hot under the collar. Let's see who this is going against. It's a big field position swing here, one way or the other, unless it's offsetting.
Which I like when the officials can do that in some of those scrums.
Major foul. Unnecessary roughness. Calgary number 2. 15-yard penalty. First down Calgary.
That makes the field longer.
Makes the field longer in a time, and the first time in the game that Henry Burris has come on the field down. Because Edmonton's been catching up and matching Henry Burris, Ricky Ray, but now Burris is coming from behind.
Season high 371 yards passing, but it hasn't been enough yet. Burris screens it. Joffrey Reynolds, Mark Rostelli blocked on the play. Big block there by Jesse Newman. And Reynolds close to a first down. The 3-minute warning here at Commonwealth. A 3-point Eskimo lead. Tonight's game story brought to you by Molson Canadian. This is our beer.
Henry Burris passed Doug Flutie, his biggest passing game of the season so far. He's the all-time leader in Calgary history. Copeland and Lewis favorite targets for Burris. Ricky Ray has matched and now taken the lead. And again, Calgary having trouble with that run defense. Whitlock's 139 has helped Edmonton.
14th game for Henry Burris against the Eskimos as a Calgary Stampeder. 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Against Ricky Ray at the same time, Ricky Ray, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. They usually put on a show, and they have tonight. And it's not done yet. 1st and 10. Underneath Thelwell, and he's brought down immediately. Jonte Buell steps up. Five for Thelwell. Time not an issue for Burris, 2:34 on the clock.
No, but what is that he has an offensive line down, and I think it's Jeff Pilon who's real slow to get up there, is favoring his right leg.
And he doesn't want to take a knee and be lost for 3 plays. They can't afford to lose him. Senior guy there at right tackle in his 10th year. Second and a long 5. Big rush. Romero in pursuit. But Burris has a first down with a key scramble.
Well, I'm not sure if it was just coincidence or by design, but with Pilon nicked up after that play, they're going to move Joffrey to this side, and then Burris is going to take off to the opposite side of the formation. So they're going to help out big Jeff Pilon, who actually really didn't need it. Burris is flush. He gets outside and picks it up on his own.
Got to the 45 and a fresh set of downs. And now wants to change the play. He's burned his timeout. And that ball batted down. Big defensive play.
Well, first of all, Henry Burris is going to bring in Ryan Thelwell and change the protection in the play when he sees the Edmonton Eskimos with everybody on the line of scrimmage. So he called that one on the line, audible, and then got it knocked down. There they are on the line of scrimmage right here. Now he brings in Thelwell for extra protection. That's going to block it up. Now he's trying to get it out of there, and it's knocked down at the line.
Xavier Jackson in his first CFL game, replacing Eric Taylor. 6'4" went skyward to knock it down. 2nd and 10. And a pass almost picked off. The elusive first interception.
And my guy.
Your guy. Couldn't bring it in. Jason Goss.
If you're just joining us, we're part of the pool. We're having our own pool to see which Edmonton Eskimo will get the first interception of 2009. And Jason Goss had his hands on that one. Boy, Henry Burris tries to gun it in there. And really, Thelwell should have had that.
Interesting call here, Glenn. 1:59 left. 3rd and 10. John Hufnagel has left the offense on the field. This is the ball game. Needing a first down. Big cruncher. Downfield. Jump ball. Copeland's got it. Jermaine Copeland comes up with it against Jonte Buell. And the Stamps still have life.
Henry Burris locks in here on Jermaine Copeland, and he's just going to throw it up as a jump ball in the one-on-one. Little double move here here for Copeland, who's just going to win the battle when the ball arrives. Henry Burris, watch him retreat and buy himself more time. Retreat like it's going to be a screen, and just throw up a jump ball.
Both those high-profile slots over 100 yards now. Copeland at 121. There's the zone read. Wide open Brett Ralph, and a flag down as Ralph towed the line.
I'm wondering if Brett Ralph ran out of bounds on his own and then came back into the field of play.
Good call. That flag was coming down as Ralph tried to get his feet set on the sidelines, but if he didn't step out before the ball arrived, he is ineligible.
Illegal participation. Calgary number 10. The man was out of bounds and came back into the field of play. Repeat, first down.
Well, it is 11. It is Brett Ralph, and good call, Glenn.
Yeah, it's Brett Ralph. He's out here at the wide receiver position. Now watch him go to the sideline. If you're pushed out of bounds, you can come in and catch the ball. I don't see him go out of bounds yet unless his heel was on the sideline and then he came back in. Tough to tell from that angle, but his heel may have been out of bounds and then he stepped back in. It was real close.
Did a little shuffle there, and the official was right on the scene. So it's 1st and 20. And the screen it to Reynolds. Kit wanted Jones in pursuit. And Reynolds is dropped as Kelly Malvo stepped up. Ball at the 43-yard line. Remember, field goal ties it. Are we set for our first overtime game of 2009?
Sandro DeAngelis on the season-long 48, but this is Commonwealth on the natural grass. You want to get a little bit closer. This is a big second down.
Henry Burris with 418 passing yards, his most in 2 seasons. 408 is high last year. 2nd and 16. Crosser, and it's going to be a yard short.
Oh, boy.
Down at the 30. Jermaine Copeland the catch. And what do you do in field goal range, looking at 3rd and a yard and a bit?
Oh, boy. John Hufnagel ran down the field to see how close he was, because this becomes an enormous gamble because he is in field goal range to tie this game.
He's going to send them back out. Doesn't want to leave too much time on the clock. He had DeAngelis out. And I think with a second look at it, he realized they were 3rd and just over a yard to go. Here we go. And not much of a surge, and a penalty marker down, which usually means offside. John Cornish heated up about something. John Hufnagel did not have the luxury of using his timeout to take a longer look. Well, what's the call?
Offside, Edmonton. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Well, they must not have given a yard. No number given, and maybe the whole defensive line.
Yeah, it looks like the entire line could have lined up offside. I didn't see anyone jump or flinch, so that was had to be the call.
So 49 seconds on the clock. First down at the 25. Stamps in position to tie, but they're looking to win. Burris. Rastelli forced them out. Out around the 20-yard line, close to 5-4 Burris.
Tremendous decision by Henry Burris. He wanted to force that ball down the field. He was looking for the end zone area. He had one receiver down there who was pretty well covered. So instead of forcing it, took it out of bounds, stopped the clock quickly. 4:32. He has not thrown the interception. 2 touchdowns and knocking on the door here.
12th play of the drive. 2nd and 5. Into the corner, and it's caught by Copeland. And it's a touchdown, Calgary. Jermaine Copeland with 38 seconds. Right in the corner where Jason Tucker caught a game winner last year in the first meeting.
They're going to want to take a look at this. It's the throw behind. Copeland working again on Jonte Buell. Deliberate throw behind as Henry Burris throws it to the back hip here. Now, did he cross the play?
He'll do so.
So the command center wants another look. Close to the pylon, but did the ball break the plane? We should get a good look at it here. And unfortunately, not looking down the goal line. It's
I'm not
really
sure.
inconclusive.
That's tough to tell there.
This might be better.
Ruled a touchdown.
Now that ball looks like it could have crossed, but
was it out
it's
of bounds?
very difficult. Very difficult. You wonder if Jake Ireland and Tom Higgins have enough to overturn Copeland at the pylon.
It's the correct decision to take a look at that, though, because remember, even if it's down inside of that yard, they put it back on the 1 yard line.
On review, the ruling on the field stands. It is a touchdown, Calgary.
It may sound strange, but that might be good news for Edmonton, because
I know what you're
there's still
saying.
38 seconds on the clock. If they had a couple of more plays to punch it in, Edmonton may not have any time left.
How about the call on 3rd and a yard by John Hufnagel to gamble and not try and tie it up with a field goal?
That 3rd and, was it 10? Play to Jermaine Copeland wasn't bad either. That was the Copeland drive, and that's the biggest drive of the year for the Calgary Stampeders. 12 plays, 88 yards.
Copeland made that big play on 3rd and 10, Chris, as you mentioned, and then he finishes the drive on the throw behind. Subtle push off on Jonte Buell and crosses the plane for the touchdown. Hufnagel, a couple of gambles on 3rd down on the drive, pay off, and he's got the lead. Now, you're right. Scoring there gives the Edmonton Eskimos 38 seconds left. This was the 3rd down play here. 3rd down and 10 early in the drive, and he wins the jump ball. So 2 big catches for Copeland.
That was on the Stampeders side of half with 2 minutes left, and you thought it would be maybe automatic to punt it away and put it in the hands of your defense, but
Let's go, kick out!
Jermaine Copeland, 3 catches, 69 yards on the drive.
Now, Tristan Jackson and Archie Whitlock have been dynamite on returns. They need a big one here.
And does DeAngelo's put it in the hands of either one of them?
He may try and squib it. Nope.
Short kick and on the fly. Jackson had trouble with it, but picks it up. Look out! Automatic field position. Tristan Jackson ignites Commonwealth one more time with 31 seconds left.
Which is plenty of time with the field position that Tristan Jackson has given Ricky Ray. And when he fumbles it around a little bit, that first wave of Stampeder cover men go right past the football.
Once again, Dwayne Carpenter prevents more damage, but at the 42-yard line, Ricky Ray has just over a half minute to try and get it back. Well, they said it might come down to who had the ball last. Let's find out. Quick header, catch Kamal Peterson. Brought down by Dwight Anderson. Eskimos do have their timeout.
Three, maybe 4 plays left for Ricky Ray if he's efficient.
Well, it's already threatening to be the game of the year. Let's find out if the finish puts it over the top. 2nd down, open man, Peterson, and he'll get out. Stops the clock, 15 seconds left, and the Eskimos have the ball at the 23.
And now the Edmonton Eskimos are in that area of the field where they like to run those corner routes. Ricky Ray looks like he's trying to signal to bring in a bunch formation, get his receivers close together, and some motion on the line when they attack. He can now throw the football to the end zone in the air. They love corner route down here. It used to be to Jason Tucker. Kamal Peterson has been a target and was last week.
So 15 seconds. Do they have 3 plays? They've got their timeout. Do they need 3 plays? Here comes the rush. Ray looking end zone. Fred stabs. Touchdown!
It's the Battle of Alberta. And did you expect anything different? The tendency breaker to go Fred Stamps down the middle on a post pattern. Not the corner that Calgary was probably expecting.
An unbelievable night at Commonwealth. Prefontaine the extra point. And it's a 3-point lead. And there's still 9 seconds left.
Well, Tristan Jackson creates field position. In a few quick plays, Ricky Ray finds Stamps. Unreal. Is there anyone better in the CFL in the last few years throwing the deep ball than Ricky Ray?
As soon as you saw Stamps with a step, you knew the ball would be delivered right where it had to be. And I can't wait for Labor Day. I don't know about you.
Has this lived up to the billing or what?
Richie Hall has not won a more exciting game than this one. If indeed they can nail down the last 9 seconds.
Well, no Prefontaine will likely kick this ball along the ground and have it roll around and eat up a couple of seconds here.
The squibber bouncing down, and Joffrey Reynolds will be taken down. 6 seconds remaining, and Henry Burris has one Hail Mary left.
He'll likely, Chris, try and load up one side or the other. These two quarterbacks have combined for over 800 yards passing tonight. And Henry Burris has one chance, and he's got to hope for a penalty. He'll load up one side and try and just throw it up there and hope he gets the interference call and one more chance.
Hard to believe those numbers. He's down to his last throw in a potential loss. Copeland's got it. They try a little lateral, and it's a turnover for Edmonton as the Eskimos get their hands on the ball. Jason Nugent, I believe, and the game is over. And what a night it has been. Fred Stamps with that 23-yard touchdown catch with 9 seconds to go. And the Eskimos escape with round 1 in the Battle of Alberta. A classic CFL night. A 38-35 Edmonton victory, as Ricky Ray and Henry Burris put on quite a show. The Eskimos lead the West now at 4-3 as we say goodnight from Commonwealth. SportsCenter next.